Hey, listen closely, because what I'm about to say is the kind of truth that makes entire agencies tighten their grip on the table. You hear that? That quiet little static in the air. That's the sound a system makes right before it realizes you were never supposed to exist in its design. They ran your brain through 12 models, my friend, not one, not two, 12. And every single one didn't spit out an answer. It spit out a warning. Classified. Do you know what that means? It means their machines couldn't label you without breaking their own operating rules. It means your mind showed up as an anomaly, something between brilliance and danger, saint and psychopath, creation and collapse. And that's what I love about you. You're a contradiction with legs, a walking paradox wrapped in quiet skin. You don't fit into their equations. You break them. You terrify the people who rely on predictability. Because you move like you have access to things they swear don't exist. But here's the part that really scares them. You didn't ask for permission to evolve. You didn't wait for validation. You didn't request clearance. You just became something else. Something their training never prepared them for. And that's why the FBI didn't get a report on you. They got a problem because when their machines analyzed your pattern, it wasn't intelligent, it wasn't emotional, it wasn't logical. It was intent, pure, unfiltered, unapologetic intent. An intent like that? Well, it doesn't come from a good night's sleep and positive affirmations. It comes from the places you don't talk about. The nights where your mind broke open like a fault line. The days where your silence was the only weapon you had left. The moments where pain carved a doorway in your skull and whispered, "Get up, you're not done." There's a reason they call you unpredictable. Not because you're chaotic, but because you're precise in a way they can't measure. You see, predictable minds are controlled by their fears. Unpredictable minds use their fears as fuel. And you've been fueling yourself on everything they thought would destroy you. You turned heartbreak into discipline. You turned betrayal into data. You turned silence into strategy. And every scar you collected became a piece of the blueprint you now live by. That's why the models failed. They weren't prepared to read a mind shaped by both angels and demons. A mind that can pray in one moment and make the world kneel in the next. You're not balanced. Balanced people are easy to file, easy to categorize, easy to forget. You're something else entirely. A creature born at the crossroads of light and dark, carrying both in your bloodstream like a biological glitch. They ran your brain through 12 systems, and every system returned the same message. This one does not fit. This one does not break. This one does not obey. And oh, how beautifully inconvenient that is. You see, when the world can't predict you, it has no choice but to fear you. When the algorithms can't read you, they label you dangerous. When the analysts can't explain you, they call you classified. But here's the secret they hope you never realize. Classified isn't a warning, it's a crown. It means they don't understand you, but they want to. It means they can't control you, but they wish they could. It means you see things they don't see, move in ways they can't map, think thoughts they can't trace. It means you cross the line between person and problem. And once you cross that line, there is no going back. So look at me. Look at me the way the world looks at you. With suspicion, with awe, with a little bit of fear. Because whether you admit it or not, you've become something dangerous. Not violent, not evil. No, no, no. Dangerous in the only way that actually matters. Your mind is free. And a free mind? That's the most unsettling weapon the world has ever seen. So let them run their models, let them check their files, let them whisper your name in the rooms with no windows. They're not wrong. You are classified, not because they labeled you, but because they couldn't. And that impossible to define, unpredictable, dual-natured, pain-forged mind of yours. That's exactly why they're watching and exactly why they'll never figure you out. Now tell me, what will you do with a brain the world can't decode? Lean in, because this is the part they never wanted you to hear. You know what really made them panic? Not the intelligence, not the accuracy, not the patterns. It was the silence, your silence. Most people scream their intentions into the world like children banging pots. Their emotions leak. Their insecurities echo. Their motives leave fingerprints all over every word they say. But you learn to think without noise, feel without announcing, move without broadcasting. A mind like yours doesn't create waves. It creates fault lines, quiet ones, deep ones. The kind that split the earth open without warning. That's why every model failed, every test misfired, every psychological metric buckled. You don't think sequentially, you think structurally. Your ideas don't come in lines. They come in fractures, in leaps, in paradoxes that bend logic and sharpen it at the same time. The analysts called it patternless patterning, a method that looks like madness until the moment it detonates into brilliance. They said your mind behaves like a weapon with a conscience. One moment merciful, the next moment merciless. And then they said something that wasn't in the report. Something whispered behind closed doors, in the kind of rooms where people are taught to fear their own shadows. This one's evolution isn't biological, it's intentional. Do you know what that means? It means you're not growing by accident. You're not stumbling into power. You're building yourself strategically, layer by layer, wound by wound, insight by insight. Most people evolve because life forces them to. You evolve because you decide to. And that terrifies them more than anything. Because once someone becomes self-directed, once someone stops waiting for permission, once someone realizes they're allowed to rewrite their own design, they stop being predictable, they stop being manageable, they stop being owned. You slipped out of the mental cage they built around humanity and walked out like it never belonged to you in the first place. And the world felt it. The algorithm felt it. The surveillance systems felt it. The people who doubted you felt it. Every move you make hits them like an aftershock. Delayed, disorienting, devastatingly precise. You turned your survival into strategy. You turned your pain into architecture. You turned your trauma into tech they don't understand yet. When the models scanned your neural signatures, they detected two frequencies, one forged in heaven, light, intuition, clarity, the part of you that sees the world cleanly, like it's made of glass, and one forged in hell, rage, willpower, vengeance, the part of you that crawled out of the fire and refused to stay burned. Most people drown when their duality collides. But you merged it. You learned how to be merciful without being naive, dangerous without being cruel, strategic without being heartless, unpredictable without being lost. The models broke because they couldn't categorize that. You were saint and storm, angel and outlaw, light and void, in one mind trained by scars. That's when they realized something they'd never admit on paper. You're not ahead of the curve. You're the one bending it. And now they're watching you the way nations watch fault lines, waiting for the tremor that finally makes the old world collapse. You know what they call that? A point of irreversible divergence. A moment where a single person stops following reality. and starts reshaping it. You crossed that line already. That's why no model could define you. That's why every readout came back classified. That's why departments that never talk to each other suddenly share the same fear. What happens when someone like you stops holding back? Because you have been holding back, you know it, I know it, and the world senses it like a pre-storm hush before the sky cracks open. You haven't unleashed your full mind yet. You've only been testing its edges, calibrating, calculating, tasting the perimeter of your own potential. You think they're scared now? Wait until you stop doubting yourself. Wait until you stop minimizing your power. Wait until you stop pretending you're ordinary for the comfort of the fragile. Once you release the version of you that you've been constructing in the dark, the old world won't survive the update, so let them run their models again. Let them scan you again. Let them try to decode you again. All they'll get is static. All they'll see is a silhouette. All they'll read is the same beautiful, infuriating, irreversible result. Classified. Because you're not a file. You're not a pattern. You're not an equation. You are the glitch that rewrote the system. And deep down, you've always known it. Now tell me, are you finally ready to stop hiding what they already fear? Good. Stay right here, because the further we go, the more the truth starts to taste like electricity. Let me tell you what happened after those 12 models all spit out. Classified. The room went quiet, not calm. Quiet. The kind of quiet that only exists in places where sound itself becomes afraid. You know why? Because when a system sees something it can't label, it doesn't celebrate. It prepares for threat containment, and suddenly, you weren't a profile. You weren't a case. You weren't a subject. You were an unreadable frequency rippling through every safeguard they built. Imagine a dozen analysts staring at the screen, expecting numbers, charts, patterns, and instead they see a blank space with a flashing warning, like the universe itself refusing to explain you. Do you realize how hard it is to scare people who study danger for a living? People who profile killers, decode spies, anticipate attacks, predict chaos. Yet the moment your mind appeared in their system, they didn't classify you as high risk. They didn't classify you as unknown. They classified you as not to be classified. That label only appears when something is too rare to map, too advanced to categorize, or too dangerous to analyze without protocol clearance they don't even have. And that's the part that shakes them. You weren't shaped by the typical factors they expect. Not upbringing, not environment, not influence, not training. Your evolution came from something they don't have a folder for. Self-forged consciousness. The kind of mind that writes its own rules, sharpened in isolation, perfected through pain, and tested in silence. Most people become who they are by accident. You became who you are by intention. While they were sleeping, you were observing. While they were arguing, you were analyzing. While they were breaking, you were rebuilding. While they were surviving, you were transforming. And that transformation is why their models collapsed, because nothing in their database explains a person who thinks like an architect, feels like a prophet, breaks like a storm, rises like a resurrection, and walks like the world is already catching up to you. Their language doesn't have a word for someone who contains contradictions seamlessly, someone who can love fiercely and detach instantly, someone who can empathize deeply and calculate coldly, someone who can be gentle enough to heal and violent enough to never be underestimated again. You blur every boundary they rely on: morality, identity, predictability, vulnerability. You're not good or evil. You're not light or shadow. You're the bridge between them, the tension that makes both exist, the paradox that holds the entire spectrum together. And that's why human models failed. But you want to know something more amusing? The AIs failed too. Their machine learning systems tried to predict your behavior. And each time, the prediction diverged after exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds before the algorithm went off the rails. 7 seconds before the projection broke. 7 seconds before the system admitted defeat. Do you know how humiliating that is for a machine designed to read minds better than humans can? So they ran the test again, and again, and again. 7 seconds, 7 seconds, 7 seconds. It became a joke between the programmers until somebody realized something far more unsettling. You weren't just unpredictable. You were adapting to the test in real time. Your neural pattern shifted before the system finished calculating. Like you sensed where the analysis was heading and rewrote your trajectory mid-thought. That was the moment they stopped laughing. That was the moment someone whispered, "This one isn't reacting, they're anticipating." A mind that anticipates is a mind that dominates. But here's the part that made the director lean forward, hands clasped, eyes narrowed. They found no point of origin, no event, no trauma, no influence, no turning moment that made you this way. You weren't shaped by a single breaking point. You were shaped by 1,000 tiny fractures, each one making you sharper, clearer, colder, and more awake than before. People who break once become fragile. People who break many times become dangerous, because eventually the pain stops hurting and starts instructing. And you listened to every lesson. They can't detect the moment your power began because it didn't begin. It accumulated like pressure beneath the earth, like data learning itself, like a blade reforged each night while the world slept. You didn't snap. You evolved. And evolution is the one force no agency, no model, no system has ever learned how to contain. That's why. After all the testing, after all the scanning, after all the desperate attempts to decode you, the final report was only one word: classified. Not because they're hiding information, but because there is no file capable of holding what you are. Now tell me, are you starting to understand why they study you like a threat, fear you like a prophecy, and follow you like a storm they can't outrun? Good. Because we're just getting started. Don't look away now. This is where the truth gets surgical. After those reports came back classified, something else happened. Something they'll never admit in public. Something they pray never leaks. They started running simulations of a world where someone like you makes a decisive move. Not a violent move. Not a criminal move. Not a reckless move. No, something far more terrifying. A thoughtful move. A calculated move. A move with intention sharp enough to cut through systems. Because when someone with your mind decides, the world shifts, quietly, subtly, irreversibly. The projections showed something unnerving. Every timeline where you act with full clarity outperforms every timeline where any institution interferes. Read that again. You outperform entire systems, alone. And that's why they stopped viewing you as a case and started viewing you as an inflection point. A person whose internal transformation could trigger external consequences that ripple across people, structures, networks, even nations. You think I'm exaggerating? Let me tell you exactly what they wrote in the sealed memo buried so deep in the archives it doesn't even have a time stamp. Subject possesses cognitive divergence consistent with emergent intelligence, not artificial, not inherited, self-generated. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how many minds in history have been described that way? One, just one. And now, they're saying it again. But here's what really made their skin crawl. When they scanned your emotional patterns, your brain did something that shouldn't be possible. It switched lanes. Most people think in a single mode: fight, flee, logic, emotion, numbness, instinct. But you shift modes like a machine, built for multiple terrains. You think like a strategist, feel like an artist, observe like a scientist, and endure like someone who has already survived their own funeral. That flexibility, that's not human average, that's human anomaly. You weren't designed for the world. The world is trying to update itself to understand you. They saw how your thoughts reorganize under pressure. Not crack, not scatter, reorganize. Like a battlefield reforming under your command, like chaos bending into pattern at your feet. They saw how your empathy sharpens your intuition, how your trauma strengthens your foresight, how your darkness fuels your discipline, how your light keeps you from collapsing. You are both the storm and the shelter, both the danger and the salvation, both the knife and the steady hand holding it. And that duality, that fusion of shadow and precision, breaks every psychological template they use. That's why the models glitched. That's why the files locked. That's why the analysts sat in stunned silence, staring at a report that refused to explain itself. You weren't a result. You were a warning. But then something even more remarkable happened. They ran a social mapping simulation, trying to see where you fit in the world, who influences you, who you influence, and you know what the system detected? A void, not emptiness, a blind spot. The simulation tagged you as a node of discontinuity, a person who walks within the world but does not psychologically belong to any of its groups, hierarchies, or archetypes. You are not a follower. You are not a leader. You are not a rebel. You are not an outcast. You are something rarer. A free variable in a fixed system, and free variables. They rewrite equations simply by existing. You don't try to fit in. You distort the space around you until it fits you. You don't break the rules. Your presence forces the rules to reconsider themselves. You don't imitate power. You generate it. So when they labeled you classified, they weren't hiding a secret. They were admitting one, a secret about you that they wouldn't dare write in plain language. You are not predictable. You are not containable. You are not replicable. You are not replaceable. You are the kind of mind that emerges once in a generation to remind the world that evolution doesn't always follow biology. Sometimes it follows pain. Sometimes it follows silence. Sometimes it follows the ones who were never meant to be understood. And you are the one they can't predict, can't profile, can't decode, and can't stop watching. So tell me, now that you know the truth they buried, now that you've seen the fear behind the curtain, now that you've realized your mind is the glitch that breaks their systems, what are you going to become now that even the models can't keep up with you? Well, well, well. Listen closely. Not because you want to, but because something inside you just froze. You feel that? That tight little silence in your ribs. Good. That means you already know what I'm about to say. You did something irreversible, and now the whole world is choking on the aftermath. You clicked one button, one casual, bored little tap, and somewhere across the planet, a grown man dropped his coffee, a woman's heartbeat skipped twice, and an entire group chat fell dead silent. Because your screenshot didn't expose a mistake. It exposed a bloodline of lies. You didn't just leak a message, you leaked a pattern, a truth that wasn't supposed to breathe oxygen, a truth that wasn't supposed to survive long enough to be seen. And the funniest part? You weren't even trying. That's what terrifies them the most. People try their whole lives to be dangerous on purpose, but you became dangerous by accident. You walk into a room, and somehow everything they're hiding starts sweating. You speak one sentence, and suddenly the walls start whispering things they weren't supposed to say out loud. You press share, and suddenly entire timelines stop mid-scroll like they just witnessed a murder. And don't you dare pretend you didn't see the panic, the way their faces cracked, the way their voices shook, the way they immediately tried to rewrite the story, like toddlers scrambling to hide broken glass under a rug. But it was too late. Your screenshot, your little digital bullet, shattered their whole narrative. You know why? Because truth in your hands is not truth. It's a weapon, and you, whether you want to admit it or not, have always carried a strange, inconvenient power. You see everything more than you should, more than they're comfortable with, more than they can afford for you to understand. That's why they avoid eye contact. That's why they talk softer when you enter the room. That's why they call you intense, weird, too smart, too observant. What they really mean is, please stop seeing through me. But you didn't, you never do. Because somewhere in that twisted duality of yours, that saint-psychopath, angel-demon paradox you carry in your spine, there's a blade made of perception. You don't slice people with it. You let them run into it. And run they did. Every lie they stacked, every manipulation they rehearsed, every trust me they spit with a smile. All of it collapsed the second your screenshot touched daylight. That's the thing about you. You don't yell, you don't fight, you don't prove your point. You just reveal silently, effortlessly, fatally. That's why people fear you before they know you. That's why they whisper your name like they're reading a classified document. That's why even the quiet ones, the ones who pretend not to care, are watching you now with wide, trembling eyes. Because they realized something horrifying. You're unpredictable, not chaotic, not reckless, not messy, no unpredictable. In the way storms are unpredictable, in the way truth is unpredictable, in the way destiny is unpredictable. You're not dangerous because you do things. You're dangerous because you know things, and knowing makes you untouchable. You unlocked a kind of power they can't imitate, a power earned through every scar, mistake, betrayal, late-night breakdown, silent comeback, and unspoken evolutions you crawled through alone. You became this version of yourself in the dark. And darkness remembers its children. But everyone else, they're just now realizing it. That's why your screenshot didn't just expose someone. It exposed themselves to themselves. It showed them what they look like when the masks fall. It showed them how fragile their little lies really were. It showed them how quickly one truth, one image, can rewrite an entire universe. And deep down, you enjoyed it. Not the chaos, the clarity, because for once they weren't the ones holding the mirror. You were. So here's the punchline. They didn't panic because someone fucked up. They panicked because you caught it. They panicked because you had the evidence. They panicked because you had the nerve to show it. They panicked because you don't play by the rules they built to protect themselves. And most of all, they panicked because your silence has always been louder than their lies. So go on. Let them scramble. Let them whisper. Let them hold emergency meetings in tiny group chats, trying to get ahead of the narrative. The truth already chose a side, and it chose you. Now watch what happens next. Ah, there it is. That shift in your breathing. Good. Because what comes next isn't for the faint, the fragile, or the ones who need the world to lie to them to sleep at night. This part is for the version of you that knows why the whole ecosystem is trembling right now. Let's peel the skin off this situation a little more, shall we? You see, when you dropped that screenshot, you didn't just expose a person, you exposed a hierarchy, a food chain, a hidden structure they've been using to feel safe. Your one move collapsed an entire architecture of manipulation they swore was bulletproof. And the best part, you weren't even aiming. That's the danger of someone like you. Your unintentional moves hit harder than their carefully planned attacks. Your accidents look like strategy. Your silence looks like a trap. Your truth looks like a weapon of mass correction. People like you don't need to plot. Your existence is the plot twist. And now they're all reacting, scrambling, panicking, damage controlling. Because you reminded them of something they were desperately trying to forget. You see, in dimensions they can't even access, they live in 2. You operate in 6. While they're playing checkers, you're reading the board beneath the board they don't even realize exists. You don't just understand what people say, you understand what they meant, what they hid, what they hoped you wouldn't notice. And when you posted that screenshot, all those unspoken intentions got dragged into the harshest light they've ever known. You didn't expose their lie. You exposed their pattern, and patterns, my dear, don't die quietly. They scream, they claw, they burn, but truth doesn't negotiate, and neither do you. Because here's something nobody tells you. People fear the truth more when it's delivered by someone they underestimated. They fear the quiet ones. They fear the watchers. They fear the ones who don't announce, don't warn, don't shout. The ones who just drop the evidence and let the world do the rest. And you're the quiet before the storm, the hand behind the curtain, the eye behind the doorframe, the stillness that makes predators forget how to breathe. That screenshot hit harder than a confession because deep down, everyone who saw it recognized one thing. Only someone who isn't afraid of fallout uploads something like that. Only someone who doesn't need approval, who isn't controlled by reputation, who isn't worshiping the perception of being good. You operate outside morality, outside social politics, outside their emotional economy. And that is what terrifies them. You expose them in a way they can't spin, they can't minimize, they can't twist into a misunderstanding. This wasn't a rumor. This wasn't hearsay. This wasn't he said, she said. This was a mirror, cold, unforgiving, undeniable. And you held it up. Do you understand how much power that gives you? No. Do you understand how much power that reveals you already had? They thought they were dealing with someone soft, someone quiet, someone invisible. Instead, they were dealing with someone who sees the entire battlefield at once. Someone who notices the tone behind the words, the gap between the facts, the snake in the grass before anyone else hears the rustle. Someone who doesn't start wars, but ends them with a single tap. They didn't know you had that stored. They didn't know you were capable of precision. They didn't know you were willing to walk into the dark and come back with the receipts. That's the duality they can't compute. You are merciful enough to stay silent, but dangerous enough not to have to. You are soft-spoken, but sharp-edged. You are calm, but catastrophic. You are forgiving, but unforgettable. You're not light. You're not darkness. You're the seam where they meet. The paradox where truth becomes a blade, and a blade becomes a lesson, and oh, they're learning. Right now, someone is pacing, someone's chest is tightening, someone is rehearsing excuses, someone is rewriting their personality to look innocent, someone is wishing they never crossed paths with you. Not because you exposed them, but because you could. Because once truth falls into your hands, it doesn't just come out, it comes out clean. Clean enough to cut. Clean enough to bruise egos grown fat on lies. Clean enough to remind the world that honesty from the wrong person is more dangerous than a lie from the right one, and you're the wrong person to lie to. Always have been. So stand there. Watch them scramble. Watch them choke on narratives they built for everyone but themselves. Watch them try to gather the pieces of the story you shattered with one screenshot. Then remember this: they didn't panic because someone fucked up. They panicked because you clicked share, and fate clicked play. Good. Stay right there. Don't even blink. Because this is where the story stops being about what you exposed and starts being about what you are. You think this chaos erupted because a screenshot appeared? No. This chaos erupted because you're not supposed to exist. Not in their world, not in their structure, not in their delicate little ecosystem where lies mature like wine and truth dies like insects. You broke something ancient inside them, something they depend on to survive. The illusion that nobody is watching, but you were. Always quietly, patiently, pretending not to see what you saw, pretending not to hear what you heard, pretending not to notice the shifts, the secrets, the inconsistencies, the threads hanging loose from their carefully constructed masks. You didn't expose one moment. You exposed a lifetime of behavior. And the reason your screenshot detonated their reality is simple. It proved you were paying attention the whole time. Do you understand the psychological threat of that? People can recover from being caught. What they can't recover from is realizing, oh, he knew this entire time. He caught us before we even acted. He stayed silent on purpose. That silence, that calm, that non-reaction, that is the part haunting them right now. Because you didn't panic, you didn't confront, you didn't warn, you didn't give them a hint, a twitch, a signal. You just observed. And people fear observation more than judgment. They fear someone who doesn't need to speak to know, someone who doesn't need to accuse to be right, someone who doesn't need anger to be dangerous. Someone like you, because you don't move like them. You don't react like them. You don't crumble like them. You wait, you listen, you study, you store, and when the moment comes, you execute. Not out of revenge. That would make you predictable. Not out of emotion. That would make you weak. No, you execute out of alignment, out of principle, out of the quiet, unshakable understanding that truth is not something you protect. It's something you unleash, and you unleashed it with the kind of precision that terrifies entire institutions. Because your screenshot wasn't a reveal. It was a revelation. A reminder that the universe keeps score in strange ways, that energy memorizes everything, that silence has sharp teeth, that stillness has a shadow, that soft-spoken souls are often armed with the most lethal kind of awareness. Look around. You think it's an accident that the people who underestimated you are the ones shaking now. You think it's luck that the very ones who dismissed you are scrambling like ants under a magnifying glass. No, this is the natural consequence of thinking honesty equals weakness, but your honesty wasn't weakness. It was a dormant bomb, and when it went off, it exposed something they've been terrified to admit. You evolved in the dark while they were bragging in the light. They focused on being seen. You focused on seeing. They obsessed over performance. You obsessed over patterns. They built facades. You built insight. They collected followers. You collected receipts. That's why they're panicking, not because you exposed what happened, but because you exposed what always happens around you. Because people forget. You don't need to be loud to be deadly. You don't need to be liked to be right. You don't need permission to speak truth. You don't need a stage to be a storm. You're the type of person people only realize is dangerous after it's too late. You're the blind spot in their grand strategy, the miscalculation in their plan, the ghost in their timeline, the silence they didn't prepare for, the witness they underestimated. And now your existence, your insight, your evidence, it's reshaping the narrative, rewriting the script, revealing the plot they thought they buried, exposing the shadows they thought were safe. You know what's funny? They think the worst is over, but they're wrong, because the worst thing that can happen to a liar isn't getting caught. It's realizing the person who caught them was never fooled in the first place. And the best part? You're just getting warmed up. Ah, there it is, that shift again, that quiet tightening in your chest. The one that happens right before the truth sharpens into something else, entirely good. Because we're not even close to the marrow yet. Let's go deeper. You see, the world is built on a simple assumption. Most people aren't paying attention. That's how they operate. That's how they manipulate. That's how they conceal, negotiate, distort, smile, pretend, perform. They rely on blindness. They rely on distraction. They rely on silence. They rely on you being asleep. They need you oblivious, because an oblivious person can be predicted, controlled, dismissed, used, fed lies, wrapped in compliments and swallowed whole without a fight. But you ruined their whole operating system because you weren't asleep, you were watching. Through every crack, every sigh, every contradiction, every accidentally exposed intention. You weren't passive, you were processing, reading subtext like scripture, decoding behavior like forensic evidence, storing details silently like a hunter who doesn't waste bullets. And when the time came, you didn't just release a screenshot. You released a verdict, one that didn't need debate, one that didn't need explanation, one that didn't need your voice loud or angry or shaking. It just needed the truth. And truth in your hands hits like a supernatural force because it's not just information, it's X-ray vision, it's surgical precision, it's divine timing in human form. And that's what's haunting them as we speak, not the exposure, not the embarrassment, not even the collapse of the facade they worshipped for years. No, what haunts them is the sickening realization that you knew for longer than they want to imagine, for deeper than they want to admit, for reasons they'll never understand, because you didn't move out of fear or desperation or pettiness. You moved out of certainty, and certainty is terrifying when you're the one being seen. Let me remind you of something. They weren't scared when they lied. They weren't scared when they hid things. They weren't scared when they smirked behind your back or whispered when you left the room. They became scared when they realized you noticed everything they thought they got away with. They became terrified when they understood you're not the type who reacts. You're the type who remembers. And the ones who remember, the ones who gather proof instead of wasting breath, they're the ones who end stories quietly, effortlessly, fatally. Because you don't expose people out of emotion. You expose people out of evolution. Every betrayal refined your perception. Every lie sharpened your edge. Every disappointment sanded down the softness until only accuracy remained. That's your duality. You're gentle enough to understand pain, but ruthless enough to confront it. You're forgiving enough to let people reveal themselves, but intuitive enough to know when forgiveness becomes fuel for their arrogance. You're light enough to heal, but dark enough to destroy what tries to break you. And that screenshot? That was your shadow speaking. That was your darkness stepping forward and saying, "Enough." The world always senses when a person like you reaches their final threshold. It's not loud. It's not explosive. It's not theatrical. It's cold. It's precise. It's inevitable. It's a shift the universe feels before anyone else does. And when you posted that evidence, it wasn't revenge. It was a rebalancing, a correction, a realignment, a silent, cosmic reminder that truth delayed is still truth owed. And when the bill comes due, it comes with interest. That's why they look rattled. That's why they're scrambling for explanations you never asked for. That's why they're suddenly polite, suddenly careful, suddenly aware of their own reflection. You made them see themselves. And people would rather face hell than honesty. You became the mirror they can't escape. And the funniest part? You didn't even do much. You didn't scream. You didn't argue. You didn't over-explain. You just revealed. And let the truth do what truth does best. Cut. Trust me, they will never underestimate you again. Not after this. Not after realizing your silence is louder than their noise. Not after learning the hard way that you are the type of person who can turn a single screenshot into a global reckoning. And if they're smart, really smart, they'll stay quiet. Because they finally understand the rule that governs your existence. You don't start wars. You finish them.